Welcome to the Quit Vaping podcast, the podcast designed to make you a non-listener. In this show, I'm not going to scare you away from a life of vaping. What I am going to do is show you just how good your life can be without it. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. So hello and welcome back to the Quit Vaping podcast. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Cipriano, and I just want to say a few things really fast before I get going today. And then we're going to have a really amazing episode where I go over my fundamental tools for helping you with vaping and just my perspective that's really going to help you today. So 2 things really fast. I did something on TikTok the other day where I put myself in a situation where I got hacked. It's entirely my fault. I'm taking full responsibility. I'm not even mad at the person who hacked me. Entirely my fault. So I think it's important really fast before we get it going. If you could go on to TikTok and follow me again, or if you've gotten any value from this, please follow me. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers. I cannot go live until I get there. A lot of the clients I get come from my live TikToks where I can add value right to somebody's comment and talk to them directly. So it would mean the world to me. My new username is lifecoach_Andrew. Again, it's lifecoach_Andrew. You'll find me. If you click on the account, you'll see the first video I talk about getting hacked. So that would mean so much to me. I'm hoping I can get the profile back. I've spent 2 years building it, so it's a bummer, but I'm sure I'm going to spend this in a way that I learn a lesson without beating myself up. All right, so please go follow me if you haven't already, and let's get into today's episode. Today we're doing the Quit Vaping 101, just basic tools. And I'm going to kind of refresh in episode 2. I talked about my basic tools for helping you quit vaping. And today we're going to just review those. And I want to just kind of give you a fresh look on vaping, especially if you're brand new to the podcast. So here we go. With no further ado, let's do some Quit Vaping 101. So I know you've heard me say this before if you've listened for a while, but I vaped for 7 years on and off, more on than off. And then before that, I smoked cigarettes. I grew up in a household that was very nicotine heavy. Both my parents smoked growing up. You know, I'm in an Italian family and household, so a lot of people smoke cigars and they've just been around nicotine. I quit no shortage of 50 times. I smoked cigarettes. I smoked cigarillos. It's like little cigars. I smoked big cigars. I smoked hookah. I used nicotine gum. I used nicotine lozenges. The only thing I never did was the nicotine patch because my mindset was I want to get my nicotine fast, and I don't think that's going to be a fast enough way to deliver it. So I didn't think nicotine patches were good because I didn't think they were going to give me the high I was looking for. So I want to start with this. Nobody ever came to me and told me in the 9 years that I used nicotine that I might have an emotional issue. I think it's very important to understand that. So what I want to tell you is that we do anything, any action or inaction, the reason we're doing it is because of an emotion, either one that we want to get out of or one that we want to get into. And when we have an uncomfortable experience in our body, we are not taught how to process our emotions. We're not taught about what an emotion even is. When I was in my psych 4-year degree, I took a 4-year degree for psychology. I was simultaneously working at the psychiatric hospital. And the funniest thing to me is that in both of those places, I didn't actually learn about what an emotion was. And you might think, Andrew, that's not important. That's like whatever, fluffy garbage. It's like, no, it's not. It's not fluffy garbage, actually. Do you realize that an emotion is a vibration in your body caused by a thought? And that those vibrations in your body guide you to every single thing you do or don't do in your life? It's the most important thing, and we're not being taught this. One of my goals as a life coach is to bring emotional education to everybody because it's the most important thing. I'm telling you again, emotional education is the most important thing. If you're vaping right now and you're having trouble putting it down or quitting, the reason is because you're not experiencing your emotions. That's it. So if Quit Vaping 101 is like, hey, your emotions or uncomfortable vibrations in your body are guiding you to want to use substances like nicotine to get out of them. Now, this is really important to understand is that when we use a substance to get away from an uncomfortable vibration, an emotion, it's not actually dealing with the emotion. What it's doing and what nicotine does is it releases dopamine. And dopamine, pretty much in my simplest way to say it, is dopamine is the chemical that makes you feel really good in your head, right? It's a neurotransmitter, which pretty much just means it's a chemical in your brain that feels really good when it's released. Well, nicotine releases dopamine. Now, what we're doing with emotions when we vape, it's not actually dealing with the uncomfortable emotion. It's just dropping dopamine over it. And I always say the example is like, imagine you have a pile of dog crap in your room. And instead of actually cleaning up the dog crap, naming it, you're like, that's dog crap. Looking at it and saying, that's dog crap. It smells bad. And processing it and dealing with it and getting rid of it, you're just throwing a blanket over it. Well, that's exactly what you're doing when you're using nicotine. You're not dealing with the emotion. You're not even learning how to process the emotion. Most likely, you're not even aware of what emotion it is. You don't even know it's dog crap. You look at it and you're just like, oh shit, cover that up. And you're doing this very unconsciously. It's like you just roll out of bed and just throw a blanket over something. You have no idea, and then you just kind of pretend it's not there. Well, that's what it is when we vape. Now, I always say there's 2 different parts to the nicotine issue. There's your thoughts, which are just sentences in your mind or your beliefs. We can use those terms interchangeably. And then there's the emotional aspect. And then finally, there's the addiction. Now, I like to group the addiction the actual chemical dependency your body gets to nicotine, I like to group that with the emotions, because an urge that the addiction causes, an urge is just an uncomfortable vibration in your body. Well, that's exactly what an emotion is. So we can just group those things together. So when it comes to understanding nicotine, why you're using it, how to quit, how to manage your urges, how to control everything, how to stop desiring nicotine, the only two things you need to understand is your beliefs, what you believe about nicotine, and how to process your emotions and your urges, which I combine those two things, right? Emotions, urges, same thing in my opinion. So if we can understand our beliefs and our urges and emotions, then guess what? You actually get control back over your body, you get control over your life. And these are the same foundational tools I teach to all my clients, whether they're trying to quit nicotine or whether they're trying to go after their dreams and have a bajillion-dollar house and, actually become a famous artist or writer or singer or go after whatever it is that they want that gets them going. So that's really important to understand, is that if you're vaping, we need to start to build awareness around what urges and emotions are in your body that are uncomfortable. We need to learn how to process those vibrations, how to sit with them without judgment, without getting out of them by using substances. That's really important. And then we also need to learn and find out what we currently believe about nicotine so that we can change those beliefs. Because you know what's so funny is that the desire you have for nicotine, that has been taught to you. Nicotine is not a substance that we ever need ever. It's not a substance that keeps us alive. It actually kills us slowly, right? But it doesn't do anything for us. It makes us feel good because it releases dopamine, but it's not a substance that your body would ever naturally crave. The reason you have a desire for nicotine is because the people around you believe things about nicotine that they've been taught, by the way, mostly by the nicotine companies. They believe things about nicotine that they've told you that now you believe. So in addition to not being taught how to feel your emotions and urges, that's a problem. And that's going to show up in a lot of areas of your life, not just nicotine, right? It's going to show up with the food. It's going to show up with alcohol. It's going to show up with gambling, with porn, with reacting to emotions. It's really important to understand your emotions. So in addition to not being taught that, your emotional element, you're also simultaneously being taught beliefs that you've never questioned for accuracy, that you've never questioned or looked at to see how they're affecting you. The reason I no longer desire nicotine is because I no longer believe things about nicotine that create a desire for nicotine. I swear to God, it's that simple. And the emotional element, me feeling my emotions every day, helps. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. Now, if you want to quit vaping, I actually would recommend first that before you get into your belief systems about nicotine, we start questioning them. I would recommend the first place for you to start would be the emotional element. And what I mean by that is that next time you want to hit your vape, next time you have an urge to hit your vape, just take a deep breath and explain to yourself. You can do it out loud. You can do it in secrecy if you're around other people and you're shameful, whatever it is. Don't be shameful, by the way. Shame doesn't lead to actions that we want to take. So be compassionate with yourself. But what I'd recommend is that next time you have an urge is that you just try to figure out what that vibration feels like in your body. Because if we can acknowledge the vibration and understand that there's a vibration in our body that's driving us to want to get out of it, we've won half the battle. That's why I think that anyone who comes into my work that hasn't experienced it before, doesn't understand it, I want to teach you I want you to have a big picture understanding of vaping, right? Your beliefs and your urges, but then I want you to start with the emotional element, the urge element. It's important to me because if you can learn how to sit with your urges, you've won so much of the battle already. And then we can go in and sweep up your thoughts and clean up everything behind it, and then you'll have no desire to vape. But I really think it's more important to sit with your urges. So I did a podcast, I think it was literally the last podcast that I did about sitting with urges. So check that one out. And then if you're ready for it, you can always sit down and ask yourself what you believe about vaping. And I just want to say, like, the first 5 to 10 episodes of this podcast, I did a series on like beliefs that we've been taught about vaping that keep us wanting vaping, that create desire. So you can look back on those episodes too, just to get into the weeds on it, because I could talk all day long about beliefs that don't serve us when it comes to nicotine. But just recognize that if you have a desire for nicotine, you might be believing things that are creating that desire. Like you might think that vaping helps with anxiety, which is a really common belief I hear. But what you don't understand, probably because no one's ever taught you this, they've taught you the complete opposite, is that when you have a drug addiction, the entire function of the drug addiction is to create a physical anxiety in your body. So not only does vaping not help with anxiety, it actually creates a hell lot more of it. So I want you just to be compassionate with yourself. And when we do this work, the emotional work or the belief system work, we're never doing it from a place of judgment or shame. That is not going to serve you. We're doing it from a place of genuine curiosity. And one of the most loving things you can do in your life for yourself is to sit down and feel your emotions without any shame or judgment. Complete curiosity. What does that urge feel like to you? Seriously, have you ever done that? Why is it so strong and compelling that you need to get out of it? Do you even understand that an urge is a vibration in your body that's compelling you to vape? The nicotine addiction itself is not so strong. It's not ever going to kill anyone. It's not like a life-threatening. You cannot be so addicted to nicotine that it kills you by withdrawal. It's an unpleasant emotional experience in your body. That's all it is. So if we can get comfortable feeling that emotion, then we no longer have to drive ourselves out of it by using nicotine. So this is it. This is the skill set of quitting vaping. And I want you to know that it's not really about vaping. When you learn how to feel your emotions, you learn how to question your thinking, you not only become a non-vapor, you also decide on the life that you want that's better than where you're currently at, and you actually have the tools to make it happen. So I just want to take a second to thank you, as always, for listening. And remember, it's not just about quitting vaping. It's about learning to use these tools to build a foundation for the life that you want the most. If you've gotten any value out of this podcast, please reach out, share this podcast, let me know, and then check out the course sales page, because that course is going to be worth so much more than I'm charging it for your life. And it'll teach you how to actually apply the tools. If you're still vaping after listening to the podcast, the course will become the missing link for you. So check it out, watch it, let me know what you think, review it, and I'd be so happy to hear from you. Have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you next week, okay? What's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying the show and that each episode is bringing you one step closer to becoming a non-listener. If you'd like to take all this information to the next level and finally quit vaping for good, you can check out the course link in my bio. Have a great day. See you next week.